My name is Captain John Brown, and I am here in the name of the Holy Redeemer, the man of Trinity, because he is on the side of justice, and you are on the side of change.
Whatever he believed, he believed. Didn't matter if it was true or not. The old man was nuttier than a squirrel turd.
My name is Floyd Rance. I am the co-founder, myself and my wife. We do the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. It's in our 18th year. We'll be in our 19th year after August 6th. We're doing a virtual film festival on Facebook, August 6th through the 10th. But everybody you know has attended. All your friends, all your coworkers have attended. Maybe you have heard about it. I hope you have. If you haven't, you're more than welcome to attend. It's always in August. It's in the second week in August. So without further ado, let's get started, all right? So The Good Lord Bird is a humorous, dramatic, and historical tapestry of antebellum America, spotlighting the complicated and ever-changing racial, religious, and gender roles that make up the American identity. Based on the National Book Award-winning novel by best-selling author James McBride, it stars Ethan Hawke as abolitionist John Brown, Joshua Caleb Johnson as the fictional character Onion, and Tony Award winner Daveed Diggs as abolitionist Frederick Douglass. It premieres on Showtime October 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining me and welcome to the Color of Conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. McBride, I want to start with you first. What possessed you to write this book, and why did you feel it's an important story to tell?
Well, John Brown is, can you see me okay, by the way?
I can see you great, yeah.
John Brown was just an important figure that I stumbled across when I was researching another book about Harriet Tubman that 8 people read. And I was fascinated with his, with what he represented and what he tried to do. I'd heard about him, years ago as a child. And when I came across his story, I just thought I'd figure out a way to tell it that was humorous and that readers would be engaged with. So that's how the idea. I mean, I'm interested in African American history and written about it several different times in several different ways, and so that's why I did it.
Okay, cool. I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed the series. And I also enjoyed the fact that it was a satirical series, that you added humor to it. Why did you go that route instead of, the more traditional route?
Well, first of all, there's so many writers, historians and writers of fiction and nonfiction who are just so talented and who have done it, who've written about history and historical fiction with so much more skill and it's better than I can do. My strength is to be funny and satirical, and it's such a dreadfully difficult subject to keep people interested in. Even Black people don't want to always see stuff that I've never seen 12 Years a Slave. I know it's very good, but I don't need to be told about how difficult it was because I read the book, and I don't want to, I want to be happy, but I want others to know what I've learned in history. So I see Daveed laughing. He's already, I can't wait for you to ask him about playing Frederick Douglass.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into him playing Frederick. I like that part too. But I thought it was refreshing, honestly. And I thought that I saw this also. Netflix did something with I forget the woman's name. She's the first Black millionaire. just recently. Maybe one of you guys can help me out with that. But
Hey,
it was,
Walker, yeah.
CJ Madam Walker.
CJ Walker.
and it was very satirical, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was very refreshing because, just like you said, it's always so downtrodden, and you know the history already. You know it's downtrodden, and you know the sun's not shining, and that sometimes there's no hope. But I thought it was refreshing that you added this humor element to it, without kind of like making fun of it. So we get it. I think everybody gets it, but it helped us enjoy it more by being able to smile and laugh a little bit. I think just recently with this, there's a movie out now called Antebellum, and you hear some of the comments you hear obviously are about, especially from Black folks, is that they're tired of seeing the brutality and what we call struggle porn is what you call it. People get tired, they get exhausted from seeing people getting beat down and this, that, and the other. Although you did have some violence in the project, it's tolerable. It's very tolerable. So I commend you for doing an excellent job. Why don't you think they teach us about the abolitionist soldiers? And anybody can answer that. Just jump on in.
Well, I'll take that. If you teach people about John Brown, you're forced in the position of teaching young people that the Civil War was about slavery. And that's something, for some reason, this country has been hesitant to do. It's kind of like they formed a gentleman's agreement after it was over that we were just gonna look the other way about why we were fighting each other. And of course, that paved the way for segregation and for Jim Crow. I mean, by not talking about it, by not addressing the issues that created the war, we've allowed, it's part of why there's people protesting in the street today. It's funny because, see, I was born in Texas, and if I heard anything about John Brown, it was just that he was a lunatic terrorist. That was all that I heard. But my parents split up, and my mom was living in Vermont. In Vermont, they're proud of John Brown. New England's proud of him. And it was fascinating to get told tales of the story of Northern aggression in one house and this pride about fighting for human equality that you see, I would feel in Vermont, And there was a woman, Josh, I wonder if you remember, I think her name was, she ran the Civil War Museum in Richmond, and she came to speak to us, the cast members. And she was a very powerful woman. And she talked about a little bit what we're saying about why people might not want to watch 12 Years a Slave. So the reason why they don't want to teach the history of slavery in this country is because it's a lot worse than you think it is. It's really, really bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of white people don't want to look at it for very obvious reasons, and Black people don't want to look at it for other reasons. And but what ends up happening is nobody ends up looking at it. And like you, James let my heart in, by Onion, let my heart go there. And I could, because it was told with the innocence of a 14-year-old, because he's a 14-year-old who's wearing a dress, and all of a sudden, I don't know what vantage point I'm looking at this from. And so I just start to experience Onion, the young person growing up, and it allowed my heart into the story. And that's what I think the humor does.
Did you co-write as well?
No, what we did is we took, Mark Richard and I, our job was to take this beautiful book that we loved, and we stuck a syringe into the book and pulled it out and tried to stick it into the celluloid. The book was our talisman from day one to the final cutting of the book, the film.
Okay, cool. I understand that you read it in one sitting and you laughed, you got a good laugh out of it. Is that true?
Well, I mean, that makes, I laughed my ass off, and my wife couldn't figure out how I could be laughing at a book about John Brown. She was like, what is wrong with you, And so she picked it up, and she said, this should be a movie. And I said it could never be a movie because I could never shorten it. The joy that I got from Onion's story was the length of it, the epic nature of it. He meets Frederick Douglass, what? Harriet Tubman gives him a shawl. He's a soldier at Harper's Ferry. I mean, it just goes on, and I just didn't want to limit it. And then my wife reminded me that I hadn't watched television in 20 years and that I could join the modern world, and that this option of a larger canvas with the limited series was available to us.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's how you came into the project, right? Did you approach him or he approached you?
I approached James.
Okay. And what'd you think, James, when he approached you, when Ethan approached you?
I fainted. I thank God. I just, I flew like a bird, and then I jumped off the Empire State Building. I mean, I thought it was great.
Was that was just?
He couldn't have given.
It was very random. I'm assuming it was very random.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't have an agent. I don't have an agent. I've been through all that agent stuff. I've been writing a long time. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have. I just do my thing, and I thank God that I'm able to make a living at what I do. When I met Ethan, he was really, I could tell he was earnest. His reputation among African American viewers is already quite high, given what he's done. So he had no credibility issues. He didn't talk in circles. And then I told him I couldn't meet him one day. I was at church. I work in my church, and I couldn't meet him at church. I said, come to my church, because he only lives a few blocks away from my church in Brooklyn. So he showed up at my little church, a little Baptist church in Red Hook. And the lady thought he was the guy who came to fix the air conditioner, So and he was cool about it, look, he understood the story, and he understands the dynamics of race. Look, yesterday, Ethan and I did a photo shoot. Well, we ended up in Bed-Stuy. It was supposed to be Williamsburg. It was in Bed-Stuy. Ethan got there first. And it was in the heart of Bed-Stuy, not the new Bed-Stuy neither.
Which street?
It wasn't a studio.
What street is this?
Schenectady.
Okay.
So, any other, if he was a Hollywood star, he'd have just walked away, because it was a chain link fence, boarded up like a beat up brownstone. He just stood around and waited until I came. I stand, I walk on the street. He's standing there with a baseball cap on. He's the only white person around. And it turns out the guy was shooting us in the backyard, and he was cool. He understands the dynamics of race in every aspect of his life. That he has in common with John Brown. So it was really, really it was easy to loose the child to him, because he took it to places where it's never been before.
He did a phenomenal job. I want to commend him. You did an excellent job, Ethan. Congrats and kudos to you. Mark McGrath couldn't have done a better job than you.
Well, that's saying a lot.
So let's talk about the young man in the dress, okay? So Joshua, how did you feel about when they approached you about this character and that you would have to wear this dress?
Well, initially, in my first audition, I actually didn't know I was wearing a dress. And then when I got my call back, they had kind of sent a little bit more information about the first episode. And as I was reading it, I was like, Mom, did you see this? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, and she's like, don't worry, son. It's not what you think it is. Relax. And then she gave me the whole breakdown about what was it like, what it was kind of about, and the reason why Onion was wearing a dress. And then it made sense to me. And I kind of fell in love with the fact that the dress is purely meant for him to survive, if that makes sense. And it's not like Onion isn't wearing it out of his own enjoyment or that he wants to wear it. It's just he's wearing it because it's convenient for him to survive.
Right. Which is what a lot of African Americans and really people did, and even now to this day they do certain things just to survive and just to get by. So you had a little hesitation at first, but then Mom set you straight.
Yeah, it wasn't really hesitation. I just think it was a lack of knowledge of the project. I didn't really know the backstory behind it. And so once she kind of, explained it to me, then it all made sense and I was fully into it.
Did you read the book?
Yeah, after my second callback, Ethan had told me, you should read the book. And I read it and I couldn't stop reading it.
Okay, cool. Do you remember, are you still in school or no?
Yeah, I'm in school right now, 10th grade.
Okay, now do you remember any learning of any abolitionists, anything like that?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a really good history teacher, and he taught us all about John Brown, all about Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and the history of Harper's Ferry. And so I had a lot of knowledge coming into the filming process.
That's good. That's good. I was saying after having watched it that I was glad that there was no brutality, especially towards you or the character Onion, because it could have got. I mean, they flirted with it a little bit, but it didn't get bad. And I was glad again not to see brutality, and there was no rape and none of that stuff. It was very refreshing, and it was, for me, it was like a buddy movie. What do you guys think?
Well, I think one of the great things about Onion's character is that he's the most practical person in the story. Kind of, you associate youth with idealism, but something about the condition of slavery has removed the idealism from this young man, and he's super practical. And I think that, so there's a reason why he doesn't get caught up. He's smart. and he's outsmarting everybody all the time, and it's such a cool, unexpected part of the story. And I think Joshua did such an incredible job of bringing that to life. It's watching a kid who's just, because he is seeing it without his politics attached to it, he's so far ahead of everybody. He's just watching the situations unfold and making the best choice possible for his survival. And you get both a lot of comedy and a lot of honesty, and you get this protagonist that is going to stay alive.
Hey, James, when you thought of, when you were, since Onion's fictional, when you thought of this, did you play with other things besides the dress, or other survival modes, or was it just teenager dress, go for it?
Well, initially, I wanted Onion to be a girl, but I just didn't feel qualified to write about slavery time, a black girl living during slavery. I just didn't feel equipped enough in my own, with my literary talent. My literary weaponry didn't really have a bullet for that, at least then. And because it was going to be funny, the fact that he's posing as a girl posed, enormous possibilities. And it's a book of caricature and satire. So, and also it's a statement about the mask. You mentioned that earlier, that mask that black people have to wear all the time. And going back to your earlier comment about, the whole business of showing slavery, this is a multi-dimensional story with different layers and levels, and blacks are multi-dimensional people. So if you take our history and place it within the multi-dimensional framework of history, it's enormous ways to tell, this wonderful story about this extraordinary man who saw beyond color, who saw, who was trying to do God's will. So that's a long way of answering your question.
No, that's cool. That's cool. David, I want to talk to you about your character, Mr. Frederick Douglass. So Frederick, in the beginning, comes off very, I guess, pompous. And you could correct me if I'm wrong. And I enjoyed the fact that he was into his clothing and kind of like his whole presence. Where did you get that from? Did you do some study on that and come to that conclusion, or was that just notes from James and Ethan?
Well, I mean, the brilliant thing that the novel does is that you witness every historical figure you meet is through Onion's eyes. And so in figuring out how to translate that, you take the facts of Frederick Douglass's life. He was a wealthy black man who Onion is seeing for the first time, that he's never seen such a thing before, right? He is the most famous person in the world. He does have a black wife and a white mistress. These are all things that are true about Frederick Douglass.
Okay.
That sounds like some rock star shit to me. You know what I'm saying? So so yes, even doing the good work of abolition, he's a star, and celebrity comes along with certain trappings, right? Comes along with nice clothes. It comes along with your life changes. And he's this particular kind of star. And look, rappers know this very well. Like you mine your past for fodder for your career, that feeds your celebrity. And Frederick Douglass is doing exactly that. He's going back and looking at his childhood days as a slave and picking out the parts of it that are most useful for whatever speech he's about to make and retelling those same stories over and over again. Like Frederick Douglass is, and it's so intentional. And this is, I didn't know much of this until I started doing the research, but to watch the way that he would tell and retell the same stories and start to shift the narrative a little bit based on who he was trying to sell on the idea of abolition, right? He's a genius with words, and he's world famous. Like, that dude has mouthpiece. He cared very much about his appearance, and all of that stuff is true. It is all very intentional for Frederick Douglass to be photographed all the time. That was part of his mission. He says, we will force people to see a respectable, well-dressed man of society that is a black man, and that is going to help our cause. And so it was easy to see a version of Frederick Douglass where the lines of where you come from and where you are and where you are going get blurred. And that also sort of fed into the fact that he couldn't go join John Brown, that he couldn't bring himself to die for this mission, to go on this suicide mission. So all of these choices make sense. That's kind of the only thing you do as an actor, is try to look at the roadmap and choose choices that help tell the particular version of the story that you're telling. And this seemed like the one that allowed Onion to have the biggest revelation, and that allowed Frederick to really learn things from Onion, and that fed into this particular kind of friendship that Frederick and John Brown have, which is also true. Yeah, it was a great experience, and I learned so much about Frederick Douglass, and not that I think that my portrayal is necessarily accurate, but it was very useful for this story, and I think there is a lot of truth in it.
No, I agree. I thought you did a good job, and I learned a lot just when you saying that he had a white mistress. That's definitely not taught in school, and that's not something that I knew. But your portrayal of him was cool, and as you said, it definitely helped the narrative, helped to push the narrative along. And I love the scene between John Brown and Frederick Douglass, and Frederick's just not about it. He's just not about the gunplay.
Yeah. Yeah, look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not trying to die right now.
Yeah, he's
out of here.
He's got too much going on to try to sacrifice that. Now, what kind of Ethan? What if you had to diagnose John? What would you say his mental instability might have been? I know he's very passionate.
That's an interesting question. If you have the ability to see through society's lies, right? If you can see the box that society builds for us, and you also have the courage to break those walls, you can't be a normal person. A normal person doesn't want, I believe in climate change, and I'm not going to go to the Capitol and set myself on fire. It's really interesting. This might be a digression, but I went to the Standing Rock March, a couple years ago. I took my girls down there, and through the cachet of being an actor, I got to meet the chief who was speaking that day. And he was talking about how hard it was to get on the cover of the paper, to get people really thinking about this. And what a difficult choice it is, that he knew that if he picked a couple young men and let them put war paint on and gave them an AK-47 and 2 stallions and let them ride into the front lawn of the White House, that they'd make the front page. And that maybe he could really do something. He was just really asking himself the question of violence or nonviolence. Like, how much do I believe in fighting for what I need? And he said, and I, on paper, am kind of willing to make that trade. But then if I look at 2 of the young men that I know, that I care about, I can't pick the 2 that should do it. I can't do that, and I have to find another way. And I say that because he spoke like a very rational person. He was very intelligent, very poised, and I totally empathized with his situation. John Brown was willing to be that person. It's like, no, I'll ride and I'll die, and I'm going to bring my children with me. And it's a boldness of action that I think there's something in us human beings that when somebody breaks the walls, the lies of society, and does the thing I don't have the courage to do, I frankly admire it. And I admire the courage of conviction. When a lot of people tell me that he's crazy, and I keep saying, why is he crazy when he's living in a culture that thinks it's okay to put children in cages and chain them up with a for sale sign on them? Like, it's the culture that's insane, and they needed to be woken up. And Harper's Ferry, strangely, was the wake up. It was the alarm bell that it was no longer acceptable. And he really shamed white America into acting on, how can you say this is not okay and not do anything about it? You know, and he's asking a big question about what white allyship really looks like. And it's really inspiring to me. So it felt like a crazy honor to kind of witness this gigantic carving. It's like a Paul Bunyan or something, you know. I mean, it's bigger. It's myth, and you know what? I could talk about it for hours because I find it really interesting.
And you didn't throw in any adjective on, like he might have had this, or he might have had that, but that's cool. Do you have anything?
What did I do?
I said, what was it? If you had to diagnose him?
Diagnose him. You know where the reason I got distracted is because I've known some do-gooders in my life, you know, and they all should probably be on medication. You know, I mean, they're not balanced people, you know, by what we call a balanced person. You know, I don't know if you read his letters from jail, he is not crazy.
Okay.
He is not crazy at all. I mean, you know, Frederick Douglass writes as beautifully as anyone about him. Frederick Douglass, we know what happened on that riverside by what Frederick Douglass himself wrote. It's him. He didn't have to tell the world. No, I was given this chance to do this. And anybody that challenged him about it, he said, I'm glad you hold your manhood more highly than you hold my manhood more high than you do your own, because you're free to die for racial equality any day you want. Any day you want, you can kill yourself for it. I want to live for it. That was he was very okay with his decision, but he really admired John Brown. And what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way is, I'm sure you're right. By today's standards, he would have some diagnosis, but he was not crazy. And you need only read his letters to know that he's not crazy.
Cool, I accept that totally. You know, I'm not going to hold your hand to the fire. I just think I thought he was extremely passionate. But there is and he was living in the time that he was living in. Obviously, the violence that he didn't care, you know, in terms of exacting violence if he needed to. Isn't there a decapitation in the movie, right? Is it not a movie, but the series? Isn't somebody gets decapitated or something like that?
Yeah.
He doesn't do it though, does he?
Yeah, I do it.
Oh, you do it. Okay, yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I said, he doesn't have any qualms about anything. He's just hella passionate about his mission, and like come hella high water, he's going to get it done. And
he would say, America didn't mind blood at all. They just minded white blood. Nobody, you know, they minded when he killed a white person. You know, they'd kill black people every day, and so he was trying to highlight that hypocrisy. And he felt called, you know, to start this war.
Is there any monuments for John Brown, any plaques or anything anywhere in this country?
It's a really good question. There's
not that I know of.
Not that I know of. There's at where he's buried at his former house, there's a statue of him, and it's very nice. And where he's born, there's like a little plaque on a stone. But it's amazing to me. I would meet all these people who would tell me, he's crazy, he's a murderer. And I'm like, well, I see so many statues of Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis, and these people killed a lot more people than John Brown did. You know, so it's not, the country doesn't seem to really have a problem with blood. It's just what kind of blood?
Exactly. And it also seems like there's, I mean, I won't say it's a secret agenda, but there's an agenda to keep people like John Brown under wraps, to keep his legacy, his history under wraps, because he may have crossed my radar once or twice, but not in the way he should have crossed. And he should be commemorated with some type of statue or something somewhere. And hopefully that'll happen in the future somewhere, hopefully. Joshua, I understand that you're a bit of an athlete, right?
Yes.
Are you, his screen has frozen, I think, so. Maybe
All you guys' screen is frozen for me.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so what are you playing ball now or no?
Not right now because of the whole quarantine pandemic type of thing, but before I played football and basketball.
Right, and I saw a commercial last night. Was that you in the Gatorade commercial?
No, not that I think of, unless I have a twin somewhere. But
okay, I got so what did you take from this whole experience working with accomplished Mr. Ethan Hawke and Mr. McBride and Mr. DeVee? What did you take from this?
I took a lot of knowledge, I could say. And it was a blessing to be able to work on a project with so many known people that are brilliant actors, brilliant authors and writers, and just amazing people in general. I learned a lot when it comes to acting, and that really helped me progress, and that really helped me develop my acting skills. And I also learned a lot of life skills that helped me in everyday life and handle situations and just be a better person and push myself to do better every single day. And I couldn't have asked for, a better team with Blumhouse or Showtime, Ethan, David, Jason Blum, James McBride, all of them. I couldn't have asked for a better team.
I really enjoyed the scene towards the end where you have to take the money to the Orlando Jones. I don't know the character's name, but I really.
The Rail Man.
Say it again.
The Rail Man.
Yeah, the Rail Man. Right. That episode, I really enjoyed that episode. Now, James, were you trying to? How do I say? I mean, this is kind of like a mistaken identity death, which we see a lot with police brutality, police mistaking someone and shooting someone. Were you playing with that, or what were you doing?
The Railman was real. The Railman, I can't remember his name now. I'm sorry. Haywood Shepherd was.
Haywood Shepherd, yeah.
Yeah, he was real, and he was the first person killed at Harper's Ferry. And I read 2 accounts where he had he'd done what you see in the miniseries. He had contacted the numbers runners in Baltimore and D.C. and told them about this revolt. You have to remember, when John Brown was putting this together, Harriet Tubman had agreed to come with him. He had to move early because of the suspicious neighbor was reporting him. Because Cook, as you see in this miniseries, was such a loud mouth, and he was sleeping with a neighbor and so forth, sleeping with a local washerwoman and so forth. He was just a cockhound. So he just screwed everything up. But the Railman was real, and so I had to. It was just a matter of aligning the worlds properly, so that Onion would intersect between the Railman and John Brown. But Haywood Shepherd was real, and for years, and I don't know if it's still there, the Daughters of the Confederacy had a statue or a monument constructed to commemorate Haywood Shepherd's death, as if, to show that John Brown was a madman. But let me add this. When Haywood Shepherd died, he died with $1,700 in his pocket. He had 3 children who were still slaves. And he was obviously planning to get them out. And he was obviously planning to help John Brown. But when John Brown moved early and the plot was revealed, those blacks who got on those cattle cars, who came from Baltimore and D.C., they turned around and cut out because they didn't get the signal from him, because he didn't get the signal from John Brown, or John Brown's son, because John Brown's son shot him accidentally. So there was that's 80% of what you see in this miniseries really happened.
Oh, cool. Okay.
This is the only thing that's fictional, really, is Onion. I mean, the scene you discussed with Frederick Douglass and John Brown that David and Ethan play with extraordinary skill. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. That pretty much is how it went.
Okay.
John Brown and you can see that their friendship, which is David is better to talk about it than I am, but their friendship was something that people should really know about.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I also enjoyed the scene. The one that gave me chills was when they say the general and they show Harriet Tubman. I love that. That was dynamite. I really love that.
That's what he called her. He called her the general.
That was dope. I loved it. I really did. That she had that. I didn't know. Now, was that in Canada? Were they in Canada at that time?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. They are in Canada. Okay, I didn't know
They were in Canada creating a provisional government to take over, to challenge the United States on the business of slavery, and she went up there. Mm-hmm. And so you see in Ethan and Joshua head to Canada. One of my favorite scenes is when he says goodbye to Onion in Canada, and then Joshua flips, and they do the whole business of recruiting the men and so forth.
Yeah, that was powerful too. I enjoyed that, the Canada part of it as well. Obviously we're going downhill at that part, but the recruitment and the gentleman standing up and stuff, those things really give you goosebumps.
I would add also that amongst the blacks that he recruited, there was only one college student in John Brown's group, and he went to my alma mater, which is Oberlin, and he was the nephew of Louis Leary, who was Langston Hughes' grandmother's first husband. So,
is that cool?
Wow.
Oberlin's in Ohio, correct?
It is, yeah. Want me to sing the theme song?
No, sir. I know a young lady.
We're fine. We're fine without it. Yeah.
I know a young lady who goes to Oberlin, and she's very proud. Well, she went to Oberlin. She's very proud that she went to Oberlin. So shout out to all the folks who went to Oberlin. It's a phenomenal school. I'm sure it's a literary school too, right?
It's a conservatory and a college. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So what do you have in the works, Mr. McBride? What you got going on?
I have a new book out called Deacon King Kong.
It's so good.
It's so good. I highly recommend.
My God.
Okay.
It's about a black church in Brooklyn, and it's about a deacon who just gets drunk and shoots the worst drug dealer in the projects.
And is this historical as well, or no?
Well, yes, it is. But I can't name names there. I mean, I my people go, for God's sake. Yeah, it's historical. It's based on some true facts. Yeah.
Some true fact. Okay. And Mr. David, what do you have going on?
What's going on? I'm up here finishing up season 2 of Snowpiercer. I mean, Pixar's Soul is coming out in the fall, so that's to look forward to. My band Clipping has a new album coming out October 23rd. I think those are Blind Spotting, the TV series. We're writing it right now, so look for that also.
Yeah. Now, Ethan, this is limited, correct? Like when Onion rides off on the horse, is that it, or are we going to see this young man again?
Well, you're going to see that young man in a lot of things.
Okay.
Right.
The story of the Good Lord Bird is finished, and
That's it.
but this young man has a big future.
He does. I'm disappointed. When he rides off into the sunset, I was thinking, I said, well, I don't know, maybe they bring him back in another way. But then as I did my reading, I said, okay, that's it. Okay, so we're just going to wrap it up. So Joshua, what do you have coming down the pipe?
Well, I'm gonna begin filming for Snowfall on FX again in a few weeks, I believe. So that should be fun. They'll film a few more episodes. But otherwise than that, just keep working on my craft and doing what I love.
All right, good deal. Well, you did a good job as Onion. Congratulations. It was phenomenal. And as Ethan said, you're going to be working a lot in the future for sure. So,
Thank you.
Get ready for it. And Mr. Hawke, what's up next for you? I know you've done everything. You've been all over, I looked at your resume and I'm like, wow, I was blown away, man. It's been at least 30 years, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So what's next?
Right now, I feel like, we all put so much effort into this show and trying to get it made, making it, and every day, all the sweat and all the blood and all the tears that went into trying to get this thing up in the air. That my mission right now is to be talking to you and to be talking to anybody who wants to talk about the good Lord Bird, because I have this, hopefully not the wrong kind of pride, but the right kind of pride to be a part of art that speaks in a meaningful way to this moment. And I'm really proud to be on the screen with all you fine men. You know, I really feel really proud of the show. And, you know, the base of, David's so lucky to have a job. You guys are all so lucky to have a job. There's so few things in production. You know, it's really, the country's really sweating. Musicians are out of work, and actors are out of work, and hair and makeup people are out of work, and cameramen are out of work. And we're all just kind of praying that somehow, I said this to James the other day, I kind of feel like we're Jonah and the whale, you know? Right now we got swallowed up and we don't know where we're swimming to, but we're going to come out somewhere. We'll be different when we get there. And hopefully, you know, we'll be somewhere better.
Okay, good deal. Well, good luck with the Good Lord Bird. It's a great series. I hope I'll try to expose it to as many folks as possible. I enjoyed you immensely, Ethan, David, and Joshua. You guys did an excellent job as an ensemble. And Mr. McBride, keep up the good work, and congratulations on all you guys' success. Thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.